Lesson 13. Anybody, non-specific. Somebody, not anybody. Who, specific. Mrs. Brown, etc. Nobody. Both anybody and somebody mean qualcuno, but, as with any and some, we use anybody for the interrogative and negative, and somebody for the positive. For example, we say, "Is there anybody sitting here?" Yes, there's somebody sitting here. Is there anybody sitting there? No, there isn't anybody sitting there. Anybody is non-specific and has a non-specific answer, whilst who is specific and has a specific answer. Mrs. Brown, Mr. Smith, etc., or nobody. What do the words anybody and somebody mean?
The words anybody and somebody mean qualcuno.
What's the difference between anybody and somebody?
The difference between anybody and somebody is that we use anybody in interrogative and negative sentences, whilst we use somebody in positive sentences.
Anybody. Is there anybody in this room?
Yes, there's somebody in this room.
Is there anybody speaking to you?
Yes, there's somebody speaking to me.
Is there anybody sitting there on that chair?
Yes, there's somebody sitting there on that chair.
Not anybody? Corridor. Is there anybody sitting on the floor?
No, there isn't anybody sitting on the floor.
Is there anybody in this room wearing a hat?
No, there isn't anybody in this room wearing a hat.
Is there anybody in the corridor?
No, there isn't anybody in the corridor.
Nobody. Who's speaking English in this room?
We're speaking English in this room.
Who's speaking French in this room?
Nobody's speaking French in this room.
Who's wearing clothes in this room?
We're wearing clothes in this room.
Who's wearing a hat in this room?
Nobody's wearing a hat in this room.
Who's giving you an English lesson?
You're giving me an English lesson.
Who's in the corridor?
Nobody's in the corridor.
Walk. What am I doing?
You're walking.
Where am I walking to?
You're walking to the window.
Do you like walking?
Yes, I like walking.
Does she like walking?
Yes, she likes walking.
The same as. Different from. Japan. Are your shoes the same as my shoes?
No, my shoes aren't the same as your shoes, but they're different from your shoes.
Are the French the same as the Russians?
No, the French aren't the same as the Russians, but they're different from the Russians.
Are your eyes the same colour as your mouth?
No, my eyes aren't the same colour as my mouth, but they're a different colour from my mouth.
Do the people in Germany speak the same language as the people in Japan?
No, the people in Germany don't speak the same language as the people in Japan, but they speak a different language from the people in Japan.
Which is it right to say? People are or people is?
It's right to say people are.
Mr. Brown's. This is the suit of Mr. Brown, or this is Mr. Brown's suit. We prefer to use Mr. Brown's suit and not the suit of Mr. Brown. Is this Mr. Brown's dress?
No, it isn't Mr. Brown's dress, but it's Mrs. Brown's dress.
Is this Mr. Brown's shirt?
Yes, it's Mr. Brown's shirt.
Is this Mr. Brown's arm?
No, it isn't Mr. Brown's arm, but it's Mr. Spinelli's arm.
Is this Mr. Spinelli's ear?
No, it isn't Mr. Spinelli's ear, but it's Miss Galante's ear.
Stand up, sit down, up, down. What's my right hand doing?
Your right hand's moving up and down.
What am I doing?
You're standing up.
What am I doing?
You're sitting down.
Do you sit down after the lesson?
No, I don't sit down after the lesson, but I stand up after the lesson.
Call. What do we call this?
We call this an arm.
What do we call the people in France?
We call the people in France French.
What do we call the thing we wear on our heads?
We call the thing we wear on our heads a hat.
Can't, cannot. What's the negative of can?
The negative of can is cannot.
What's the contraction of cannot?
The contraction of cannot is can't.
Can you speak Chinese?
No, I can't speak Chinese.
Can you put the table into your pocket?
No, I can't put the table into my pocket.
Can you touch the ceiling?
No, I can't touch